Hi, and welcome to Off the Beaten Tracks. And yes, we do accept Canadian Tire money.
Hi, and welcome back to Off the Beaten Tracks. Once again, I'm talking to the blue-eyed Prince of Soul, Toronto's own George Olliver. Hi, George.
Nice to be here. How are you doing?
I am well, and I hope you are too.
Yes.
We'd like to talk to you a little bit about an album that you did after the Mandela that I recently discovered, as did my co-producer, Daryl Vickers, and we're blown away by the writing on this. This is an album you made under the band name Natural Gas, and my goodness, there was some really masterful writing on this.
Right after the Mandela broke up, I put together my first solo band, and I was having such a good time leading the band and booking in different places. We went to Boston and to New England, and I'd forgotten that I'm a songwriter. And by the time the band had broken up 2 years later, there was no record of it or no recordings. So I made sure that when I put the next band together, Natural Gas, we were going to record. And the first thing I did was book our band Natural Gas with Graham Lair and a bunch of these other great artists down in New York City at Trudy Heller's, which was a very, very prominent club back then in the Village. People from a recording studio called Broadway Recording came down to see us, loved the band, and told us that they can get us a really good record.
That is exactly what I wanted to know, how you got into this particular studio and how you chose these songs, because these songs I felt really captured something, I can only assume, but I believe that you pulled from your days at the Blue Note of the R&B background. That seemed to be what you drew upon to create these wonderful songs.
Oh, well, it was a combination of the R&B, as you say, bass that I have, along with what was going on. Like at that time was Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears were just coming up. And I had a horn band, so I was writing, but I didn't want to copy. So I was trying to get influence, but I didn't want to copy. And, we came out with this album, and I'm very proud of it.
It's fantastic. And this was, so you said it was recorded, I'm sorry, where did you say it was recorded at?
It was recorded in New York City, part of it, and part of it was mixed in Montreal.
Oh, at an RCA in Montreal.
Yes.
That's amazing. And so, how did you wind up picking these particular songs? Did you have like a huge trove? Did you narrow it down?
Well, I wrote about 20 tunes for the album and picked 13. And I just picked the ones I liked. And fortunately, my producers in New York liked them too. So they all went on the album. And it turned out very well.
Did you have any problems at all recording? I mean, these are early days, and this is with a big band. So, as you said, there was Chicago was going around, Blood, Sweat, and Tears was coming up. Were there any special difficulties recording a horn band at that time?
Not really. I had experience recording some demos with the Mandela and with myself as a solo artist, so I had some experience in the studio. And I was very, very ready to give my suggestions to Natural Gas and the producer. And together we worked, and it came out very well.
And did you tour with Natural Gas? Did you have a long touring?
Oh yeah, we went to Montreal. Where many of the members were from. We did Kingston. We went down to out to Sault Ste. Marie, and then down to the States to Chicago, New York City. We did a lot of dates in New York City at Trudy Heller's, and where we got our recording contract, and many other clubs in the area. The Scene, Steve Paul's The Scene. Yeah, it was.
I thought I read a funny quote, I hope this is you talking again because I have to keep checking myself.
I try and be humorous.
But I read that you were quoted as saying that this particular period of time, it was fame without the riches.
Exactly. Well, right after the Mandela, I did want to make some money, in which I had at my first solo band, but I forgot about the money when we got into natural gas because we were doing original material as opposed to with my solo band, we're doing all cover stuff, and it's always hard to record or get an original band popular when nobody knows who they are. So we got down to New York, recorded the album, got airplay in Canada, and away we went. Natural gas.
And so how long was this lifespan of that particular band?
That was, let me see, 1969 to 72.
Right, and it was then you decided to go on to some solo recording.
Yes.
Right.
I put another band together called George Olliver and Friends, and that band lasted for about 5 years, with different members.
Is that the one that had the Dream Girl on it?
No, that was the one that was shortly before. And let me see it. I'm trying to remember. Right after the Children, I put a band together called, Natural Gas. And then Natural Gas, some of the members came down and recorded Dream Girl with me when I was doing my solo thing.
So you were able to hang on to them as part of the whole band?
Well, no. I went on to put another band together called George Olliver and Friends, which recorded Dream Girl.
And that
was my next album.
And that was the one that got you the Juno nomination.
Yes. Oh, thank you for mentioning that.
Well, we're always excited when we hear that we've got people in here who were nominated or even hopefully won.
Well, I had Kathy Young in here, and she was a Juno Award winner. So I was just happy to get on there as a Juno nominee.
So tell us a little bit about when you were actually working on the production of this album. Well, for starters, what is this cover? This is an interesting graphic.
This was created by my producers. They said they had a good idea and a great artist to this album cover, the insert, and the back of the cover. So it was Pat Jackson, Fran White, my producers, that did that album cover.
So they not only produced you musically, they produced you graphically.
Yes.
Oh, terrific. Now, did you find it troublesome when you were touring with this band, 7 artists and yourself, so a total of 8 people? That's a big crew to travel with. Did you ever have any issues with that?
Well, as I say, remember I just mentioned that my first solo band was 10 pieces.
Oh, right.
And I took them to Boston and the New England states, so I was used to handling big bands. But the main thing was I had a reputation right across Canada as being a well-known artist that sang with the Mandela and had a solo career. And these people that I hired for Natural Gas knew me, and I had the respect. And, I said we're going to go and not make a lot of money in New York, but record an album which could bring us to a lot of money. And it did in the end. I was paying the band pretty good money when we had that album, whoopsie-doing out there in the charts.
It's fantastic. Great. It must have been really a good time for you as a performer to have that sort of... I love working with a big band. I just love the feeling that you're sort of falling back on this protective cushion behind you. Is that something that...
Well, that and the fact that I love horn bands. I mean, R&B soul, Sam and Dave and Chuck Jackson and all these great bands always had horn sections, Tower of Power. So it's something after I had my small solo band or small thing with Mandela, I graduated to hiring horns for my next couple of bands, George Olliver and His Children and Natural Gas.
Something else that I noticed, and I had not known, is that you are also a keyboard player.
Yes. Well, when I was at the Blue Note, I was a big fan of Doug Riley's, and he gave me some lessons. I was playing, and then when the Rogues came into play at the original Blue Note, I was playing keyboards in our instrumentals until we hired Joey Hirovsky, which came in to play keyboards, and I went out front. And that's when I really got under the wires, doing all the moves and the dancing and everything. So,
As a vocalist, I am very much aware of how fragile our vocal instrument is. Now, when you are singing as full out and when you're working with a horn band, your voice as an instrument can be damaged so easily. Did you have any issues in the studio working with that, the level of sound of the horn section?
well, it's funny, when I was doing my early recordings, I never thought of that. I just thought, well, I'm going in the studio tomorrow, I better be good. Every time I got in the studio, I was warmed up in the back and warmed the voice up. But, when you're 18 to 21 years of age in that area, if you love something, my voice was very strong. And I was very thankful about that.
Well, you're lucky because a lot of us got nodes. Did they even have monitors in your day? I mean, when you were working live, not obviously in the studio you did, but I worked a lot of places where they didn't even have monitors.
Well, with the Mandela in the late 60s, there's no monitors. No monitors, you just heard out of the main system.
That's amazing, you could hear yourself.
Yeah, but with natural gas, monitors were starting to come in, and, but it was no elaborate thing. It was a couple of speakers, and we could plug them in the main system. But yeah, and then you got further down the line, it became vocalists really wanted to hear themselves well on stage, which is good, and the monitors became better.
And of course now we've evolved to the point where people have the in-ear monitor, and that must be a little bit scary sometimes.
They do. I don't know how they do it. I don't use that,
So those were heady days for you. As a young man, you got all this hype behind you. You're in New York City. What kind of mischief did you get into?
Yeah, well, I had been in touch by phone with the #1 club in the village called Trudy Heller's. And so when I went down to New York, I know exactly where we were going, and we were going to be playing because we were hired. But Trudy Heller's was one of the foremost clubs in the village, and they spawned a truckload of groups. Our recording producers happened to be stopping by from Broadway Recording, which was just up above the Ed Sullivan Theater. And they had a 24-track studio, and they said, we want to record you. And that's how Natural Gas got the recording contract, an individual recording contract with them. And we went on to record this album.
And you got into, what kind of troubles did you get into in those days?
Oh, well, as I say, there was major artists coming down to see us, a lot of beautiful women. And I was, I was a young artist at that time, and I was a little bit out of control, but I met some great people going through the club, and being in New York City, to meet all these well-known artists and to have them come up and compliment you on your show was wonderful.
Thanks for tuning in to Off the Beaten Tracks. I have been talking today with George Olliver as we discuss his wonderful album, Natural Gas. We hope to have him back soon so we can talk about some of the other adventures that he's had in his musical history. Thanks for coming in, George.
It's great.
If you have any thoughts or complaints about our show, please contact Steve Carlson.